So it's like a couple different things to tweak it.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City. We'll meet in a regular meeting in City Hall Council Chambers located at 1716 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas, on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. If everyone would please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this night, these citizens, these board members, and all of our city employees and first responders. Give us wisdom, patience, and clarity as we go about our city's business. In Jesus' name we always pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll have a roll call now and establish a quorum. Roll call from my left, please.
Barnes here.
Evans here.
Jacobs here.
Person here. Foster here.
We have a quorum. Citizens Communications. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551007, members of the public may speak on any topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and no action may be taken by the council. Any response from a member of the City Council to non-agenda comments is limited to a statement of specific factual information, a recitation of existing policy, or direction to staff for follow-up. Our City Secretary has given me a list of citizens' comments. Our first speaker this evening would be Cindy Key.
Unless it is a public hearing, all the comments are done during the public comment section.
How about that?
I thought since it's coming up that it... Hi, Cindy Key, 312 Canoe Court, Gun Barrel City. This is about the changes, proposed changes to the EDC Large Business Expansion Program. After listening to the changes that have been proposed, as a Gun Barrel City voter and one of your constituents, I urge you to pass this as the EDC board and their attorney have submitted. I don't believe any of you are attorneys. Ken? No. You were elected to represent us, your constituents, over your own personal interests, and to spend more time quibbling over one word in the agreement is a flagrant waste of time and resources. Please approve the changes as written and encourage your fellow council members to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, there are two names on here, Roy Key and Keith Bond. Mr. Key.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. And good evening, City Manager. My name is Roy Key. I live at 312 Canoe Court. I'm here as a private citizen, and I'm here as president of the EDC to discuss the issue that's coming up tonight on approval of the large incentive business policy for the Economic Development Corporation of Gun Barrel City. On July the 17th, 2024, the entirety of the EDC Board of Directors met together and spent a great portion of the afternoon going over this particular item that was before you on your agenda tonight. We looked at it and read it and discussed it and asked questions regarding the layout of this document. We first decided what do we do as an EDC? And as an EDC, we're here to grow the tax base. We're 100% dependent on sales tax, which means somebody that lives in Dallas pays their sales tax here. It goes to further this city. People that live here pay sales tax. It goes to further this city. We want to try to develop new areas for the sales tax base to grow so that we can become a stronger and more productive city. As I said, all of the board of directors were present on the 17th of July. And at the end of that meeting, we all came to a consensus that this particular policy would do exactly what we were trying to do without trying to build us in a box. Specifically, it's in the intent of this policy, and I draw you to the large business incentive policy. It's the intent of this policy to provide the guidelines and criteria, requirements, and procedures to evaluate and approve the incentives deemed necessary by the EDC and deemed necessary by the City Council for the furtherance of its economic development and community goals. This policy shall include provisions for use of Type B economic development sales tax funds. We have purposefully written this policy to be broad, to give us an umbrella under which to operate. It doesn't tie us into a small box. It doesn't put us into a situation where we can't develop something specific for who comes to see us, which I don't think we need a one-size-fits-all. I'm running out of time, so I thank you very much.
Thank you. Our last speaker this evening will be Mr. Gary Damiano.
Good evening. I sound terrible. I apologize. I appreciate the time to talk on this. This is about the large business incentive policy. I actually have to agree with everything that's been said. This is the second time that you folks have had a chance to review this. The first time you gave us some input, we went back, took a look at that input, developed some new wording, and we're giving new wording back to you, which seems to cover everything that your initial concerns were. Unfortunately, this program is 50% of what the EDC does. We have a small business program and we have a large business program. Without this program, we're hampered, quite frankly. The end result on all of this is that any product that results from this large business program comes to you folks. You have a chance to make your concerns known, your objections known. I strongly ask you to let us move forward with this, approve the program as we've just presented it to you with the new wording, and let us get on with business. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Moving on. Consent agenda. 6A, all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Consider approving the following reports. First, the November 6, 2024 special meeting minutes. Secondly, the November 19, 2024 special and regular meeting minutes. And thirdly, the EDC October financials. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I have a vote for my left, please?
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Yes.
Person, yes.
Walsh, yes.
Consent agenda passes. Under new business, 7A, A presentation of quarterly department reports, including fire, planning, streets, and park and maintenance. Our first presentation of the evening will be from our Fire Chief, Joey Lindeman.
Mayor, council, city manager, thank you. This right here, we did a quarterly report for you based on reports you've received from November back to September. We put it in a pie chart form. It gives you a call number and a percentage. It goes down for your major incident types if you want to just structure it as fires, rescues, service calls, good intent calls, and false alarms. For the month of September, we ran 104 of these, 14 being fires that could range from an automobile fire to a structure fire. Rescue for emergency and medical service, obviously that's always the largest part of our call volume. We ran 57 that time. That right there could include motor vehicle accidents if they were started up with a medical call that caused the accident itself. Service calls, 21. Service calls fall into a category that can cover just about anything from getting a cat out of a tree to going and putting up batteries and smoke detectors or installing those. Good intents are just that when people call in and want us to come out and do something special. We could be going to Lowe's to do a little small event for them, or a child care setup where they do the little wooden projects for fire prevention. And then false alarms, obviously, this month for September, we only had 3, which was pretty good. We usually average probably 5 a month, and that changes if it's during a burn ban or a really heavy storm activity month. So I'll move on over to October's. October was a pretty heavy month for all of us. We were still the tail end of a burn ban. Our medical calls kind of went down when you compare it to the percentage of all the other calls involved, which is odd for us. Normally, the majority is medical. Under the major incident types on it, we ran 14 calls. That's not a duplicate. They just happen to be the same amount of calls. Rescue were 42. Hazardous conditions with no fire could be storm-related for power lines down, et cetera. Same with service calls. Good intent and false alarms, totaling 96 for the month of October. November pie chart, we kind of went up a little bit on our rescues and medicals. On a major incident type on that, we had 3 fires. One of them was a structure fire, and I forgot to say in the month of October, we ended up having 3 structure fires with 3 investigations for the month of October that were pretty tedious. Coming back to November, our medical calls went up considerably. Hazardous conditions with no fire, something could have either gotten hot without a fire, boiling, overpressurized. Service calls were at 13, good intents 15, and our false alarms obviously went down with a total of 88 on that one. So then we did a year to date for you guys, and this is going to start from January 1st through November 30th. Obviously, the medical calls we're almost at a 50% mark, which is still odd for us. Normally, it's 60, 70% in a year. You had a total of 86 fires, and here we go again. We had burn ban for quite a bit. I think it was like 4 months we were in burn ban. You get your overpressure rupture, which is from the month of November, your rescue medical calls at 503, hazardous conditions, 41, service calls now collectively through the year, quite a bit, 135. A lot of that, like I said, is going to be storm related. Good intent calls showed 134. I know those aren't 134 cats and trees, but false alarms we totaled out for the month of November with the year leading up at 18, bringing our call volume to 918. So I forecast the total calls for the year of 2024 to be a little over 1,000 calls, maybe 1,020. which is not too shabby for a 3-person fire department with volunteers and the amount of population that we have in commercial businesses. And then following up, we had some pictures that we put in from October for fire prevention. Also, we went to the elementary school. We went to Southside, and I believe we went to Central to assist the city of Maybank with their fire prevention also. Took a few pictures of that. Cancer awareness, we had some shirts done. National Night Out that we had at the pavilion. And then obviously the procession of lights that one of our lieutenants kind of railroaded up about 3 years ago to go around the lake with all the fire departments, showing for support for September 11th. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer.
Questions for staff?
Doing a good job.
Thank you, guys.
Chief Lindeman, we appreciate all you and your staff do. Incredible work.
Can I keep this? No.
Next quarterly department report will be from our planning, and that'll be from Brittany Lewis. Brittany, the floor is all yours.
Sorry, I'm a little bit short, so I had to move the mic down. So I just want to say good evening, everyone. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm honored to be the new city planner for Gun Barrel City. I began my journey with the city in June of 2022 as the permit assistant, and it's been an incredible experience so far. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to serve this community in my new capacity as a city planner. My vision is to guide sustainable growth and continuously improve the quality of life for all of our residents. I believe in the power of teamwork, and I'm excited to collaborate with each of you to shape a thriving future for our city. Community development is a passion of mine, and seeing Gun Barrel City flourish is truly rewarding. I look forward to working with you all. So here's a list of our current pending projects. Before we dive into the details, I just wanted to give you a good overview of those pending projects that are in various stages of the development process. As items come to the team for consideration, we'll continue to work with each developer. The first project we'll go over is Infinity Cove Luxury Motel. We're nearly complete with compliance requirements for the replat, with only a few remaining items to finalize. Specifically, we are awaiting the cross-lot parking and/or access agreements, as well as the replat certifications and protective covenants. These documents are necessary to ensure all legal and operational aspects are addressed. The site plan compliance is also nearly complete, but final approval is pending resolution of the off-site parking agreement and the incorporation of related notes into the site plan. As for stormwater compliance, I'm pleased to report that it was successfully completed in March of 2024, meeting all the regulatory and environmental standards. However, it's important to note that no additional information has been received since the end of October. We're currently awaiting further action from the applicant to proceed. Once these final elements are addressed, we'll be in a position to move forward with the project. Moving to the Mobile Food Park and Heritage Parkway, the project site was rezoned to planned development in April of 2023, marking an important first step in aligning the site with our vision for growth. By early July, we received project concept graphics, followed shortly after by the initial site plan submitted in mid-July. Our team completed a thorough review and provided feedback in August of 2023, ensuring the developer had a clear guidance on the next steps and any adjustments required to move forward. Since that time, however, no additional information has been received from the applicant, and the project is currently awaiting further action on their end. Now moving forward with the Brookshires project. The initial site plan for this project was submitted in late August of 2023. Our team responded with detailed review and feedback in September and October of this year. These responses were designed to address any concerns and provide clear direction for moving forward. In January of 2024, we received a follow-up question related to parking, which has been promptly addressed. Since that, no response, no additional information has been submitted, and the project remains pending. Additionally, we received word from the partner that the developer is currently working to resolve a dispute regarding easements on the property. This resolution is a crucial step before the project can progress further. For the Honey Bear Storage Project, the initial site plan submittal was received in February of 2023, and our team responded with feedback in March of 2023. A site plan resubmittal was provided in May of 2023, which was reviewed and responded to in June of 2023. The feedback from that review was detailed, ensuring clarity for the applicant to address any outstanding concerns. Since that time, however, no additional information or updates have been submitted by the applicant, and we are still waiting further action from their side to continue with the process. Moving on to upcoming projects. Here's an update on 2 key upcoming projects that will hopefully come before you next month. These projects reflect our city's commitment to addressing the growing demand for residential housing while maintaining thoughtful planning for future development. First, let's discuss the rezone request for 606 East Main Street. This proposal seeks to rezone the property from commercial to residential, paving a way for a new subdivision. This development aligns with our city's goal to increase housing availability in accessible areas, meeting the needs of our growing population. And next, we have the preliminary plat for the Hillsdale subdivision Phase 2. This project represents the next step for Hillsdale residential subdivision. Phase 2 includes 23 additional lots, 3 open space lots, which will further support the demand for housing while integrating with existing infrastructure. Both of these projects highlight our city's proactive approach to growth. They not only provide new housing options, but also reflect our commitment to maintaining a balance between development and community needs. As we move forward, we continue to prioritize collaboration and transparency, ensuring that these projects align with Gun Barrel City's long-term vision. I'd like to highlight some of the recent projects that have been approved by the City Council and have had groundbreaking ceremonies. First, we have the Gun Barrel City Community Center. This new facility is designed to serve as a hub for community activities and events. We held the groundbreaking ceremony on August the 28th, and construction is currently underway. Once completed, the center will significantly enhance community engagement and improve the quality of life for our residents. Pier 334 is a significant development aimed to enhancing our waterfront area. We recently held the groundbreaking ceremony, marking the start of construction. This project is expected to boost local tourism and provide a vibrant space for both residents and visitors to enjoy. Pier 334 is a key part of our efforts to revitalize the waterfront and create more opportunities for community engagement and economic growth. These projects represent important steps forward for our city, and I'm excited about the positive impact that they have on our community. Now let's move on to the special use permits that have been approved by the City Council. The first project is for permanent makeup services by Lily DeGarmo at ETX and Jack Cosmetic and Wellness. That's located at 1829 West Main Street here in Gun Barrel City. This will enhance local beauty and wellness options, attracting more clients and supporting business growth. The second permit is for Rogue Rhino, a tattoo studio located at 722 West Main Street This new studio will provide professional tattoo services, adding to the diversity of businesses in our city and attracting a broader clientele. And I'd like to share some of the events that I've had the pleasure of volunteering at over the past few months. I helped with pet registration at the Night Out event. I also helped with the haunted trail, even dressed up as a ghost for the spirit of Halloween, and showed support for our Panthers for the homecoming week, and many more to come. Volunteering has been rewarding, and I encourage everyone to get involved. Finally, I'd like to say thank you, Mayor, City Council members, for your time tonight. Your support is invaluable as we continue to work on enhancing and developing our community. There is so much more to look forward to, and together we'll keep moving toward a brighter future for Gun Barrel City. If there's any questions or further discussions, I'm happy to address them.
Questions for staff?
Do you have a question, Brittany? How long do you typically, are we sitting on projects, if they're clearly not going to come back to, work those issues out with us or respond, how long do we typically, keep those on our lists of potentials?
We will continue to keep them in the pending projects until they decide to fully pull away.
Gotcha. Okay.
One thing Brittany has done since she came on board is really follow up with those pending projects, almost obnoxiously. Infinity Cove gets an email every Wednesday that says, okay, where are we? So she's been very, very diligent in putting her finger and trying to get some information so that we're not hassling them, but we don't want them waiting on us either, right? So our engineer has been somewhere in about the 7-day period of trying to turn things around for us. So he is attempting right now, we have the time to do that. So he's attempting to get feedback turned around very quickly. And Brittany is diligently keeping in touch with those folks, even if they don't respond to her, to try to keep us on their radar that, hey, we're here and we're here to help if we can, so.
I'd just like to say, Brittany, you are another incredible example of the unbelievable staff we have here at the City Hall, and that's from the secretary, treasurer, everybody that works so hard here, and you're another incredible example of that, and thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Next up, we will have streets and park maintenance. Mike Howe. Mike is doing much better, by the way. His thoughts and prayers.
Get your cane.
You don't need a cane. He's tough.
Okay, do I operate this? Okay, here we are. Yeah, I'm Michael Howell. I'm with the Street Department Superintendent, and I just want to go over a few things that we have on our quarterly report. You can see our street division on our hours that we've put in since November of this last quarter. We had quite a bit, we were quite busy in September and October with the end of the year coming up. We had quite a few hours. We've had a lot of maintenance repairs on equipment and things like that. The equipment repair, we've been repairing and winterizing mowers and trucks and replacing cylinders on some of our equipment and things like that. So we have quite a few hours of repair time. As far as our asphalt street repair, you can see right there we had the reconstruction of Harbor Point Road out here in front of the school. We started with 2,400 feet. This will be phase 1. And I think they did a great job. I'll show you a photo in a minute. And then we also did 470 square yards of asphalt, just street repairs in small areas that we have citywide. And we've also filled about 1,375 potholes since November, which that count is going to go up gradually as the weather warms up, once the streets in the winter time has passed, okay? The drainage project that we have going, we have the Longleaf Grant drainage project over in Longleaf at Tamarack. That will be completed by the end of the month. I just spoke with the contractor today, and he's ready to do the last load of rock and then grout it and then seed the sides with grass. So that project will be complete and will be probably a month earlier than the deadline that CDBG requires us to have. So we're ahead of schedule on that, even with all the rain we've had and the delays. The ditch maintenance, we've done 135 feet of ditching in different areas for some residents in Tamarack, Willowwood, Harbor Point, Loon Bay, and along the city. With our special event assistance, we had drivers for the haunted hayride and the haunted trail. So we had some employees that volunteered for that, and that helped out a lot. And I'm real proud of the people that I have working for me that did volunteer for those. So I want to give kudos to those. In our sign maintenance, we've got 44 hours of repairing signs. We haven't replaced any signs, but we've been repairing them where cars have nipped them and bent them and the wind has blown them over and everything. So I do have a crew that goes around and does check those. As far as the community center, of course, you know, is under construction. I'll have some photos of that in a minute. I do manage the day-to-day operations of it with Riley Harris Construction that is doing the project and with the engineers of the city. So I am aware of what's going on and all the meetings that we have through them. And then coming soon, I had striping for the rest of Harbor Point Road, but we went ahead and got it done. So you can see at night and during the day the rest of the road. That's just temporary until we get through the other two phases of Harbor Point Road and get it reconstructed. Go this way. And you can see Harbor Point Road. You can see the transition from the bad part of the road to the good part. That is going from the north to south to 334. And then also the middle picture, the top two right pictures are the Longleaf Drainage Project, which is really going to cut down on the water flow and the flooding for all the residents in the Tamarack area that are on that particular creek bed back there that flows into the lake. Over to the left, that's the big hole that the foundation for the community center, that they had to go down 8 feet, and then they repacked the soil, brought in good solid soil and clay, and it's been tested and it's ready to go. You can see in the middle photo there that they have the pad poured for it, and they've already started the rough-in plumbing for the community center. So, and we're going to start probably this month. They're going to start going and start doing the sidewalks and the driveways and the concrete for the areas. They're waiting on the building from Mueller to be delivered to start erecting it. So once you see the building go up, then it's going to fly from there. In my park division, I do now have 2 full-time park men and 2 part-time park men, which is 4, which we've been running with 3 or 2 for the last year or so. So the park maintenance and the park amenities, these guys, they take care of 20 amenities around the park area, and David and his crew have been doing a great job. They do daily trash pickup, clean your restrooms, and I will say that, and I'm going to brag on David, the restrooms that he has. He has the cleanest restrooms that you'll ever see around the city. Even all the emergency personnel come through there to stop and use that restroom because they say it's the cleanest in the lake area. So I have to give David and him a yahoo on that one. So, and they repair all the amenities as needed. Well, right now we're going to be working on a plan to start repairing the water fountains and things like that, but that'll come at a later date, and we're working on that. He has installed some new benches. Some new benches with shade, okay, around the park area. We replaced just the non-shaded ones and the wooden benches with the new metal benches with the shades on them. So they're in different areas in the park, so if you're walking. And also you can follow our new signs that the park has put up for the tennis courts and all the amenities that shows you where everything is located. They did help with the trunk or treat. I appreciate them pitching in and helping with that. And then we're putting a plan together now to reopen the volleyball court. We're going to restripe the pickleball court, and we're going to start doing safety inspections on the playground, okay? We're in the process of putting those together, a plan together on when that procedure is going to take place and how long, and who's going to be inspecting the playground equipment. Because David usually checks everything, but we need a full inspection on all the playground equipment for the kids' safety and the parents also. And that's what I have. So, anyone have any questions for me?
Questions for staff?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I got, on the walking trails over there, do you have any local material there that's going to be used possibly to improve this?
Well, we were looking at putting some more granite down, but I can't get a hold of any decomposed granite. Decomposed granite is what I need. Right now, we have regular granite, which is 3/8 rock, and it's flaky, and it doesn't pack and seal together. So we're in the process. I've called some of my material providers and asked them about, can they get decomposed granite for me to redo the park walkways and things like that. And they said, this stuff is hard to get. So they don't know if it comes out of Houston or Austin or somewhere in that area around South Texas area where all the granite is. But I'm in the process of looking for decomposed granite as a material to start redoing the trails too and the walkway.
You're not using any recycled highway material or anything like that?
I've got plenty of asphalt, reclaimed asphalt from it, but it doesn't pack down and it doesn't seal like it should and bond together. That's the whole problem with that. Now, we did look at it at one time. I looked into it, and it was going to cost us for that part of the track to be re-asphalted, 5 feet wide all the way around. It was over $150,000 when I checked into it and had someone give me a quote on what it would be. So that may be in the future. And I don't want to do concrete. Concrete's too hard on your feet. So some softer material. Now, they do make some rubber tire material that you can put down that's kind of rubbery and soft. But I haven't checked into that. I've just read about it. So, but it's different things I'm looking into to try to put something in place and get with David.
Further questions? Mike, I just want to say that we appreciate your leadership, and that was very evident that while you were out, we didn't miss a beat, and you were sorely missed, but you've done a great job with your staff, and we are all indebted to you, and we're glad you're on the mend. And don't feel like you have to use that cane unless you want to.
Mayor, the doctor said he has to use the cane.
I appreciate that. and thank you, all of you, for checking in on me. I appreciate that.
You bet. I'd also like to thank Dr. Smith for her leadership with our staff and all of our departments. They do such a great job. Item 7B, consider and take action to adopt ordinance number O-2024-031, approving a contract extension between the city and Republic Services for an additional 7-year term through December of 2031. Our sponsor on this item will be none other than our city manager, Dr. Smith.
Mayor, would you like to read the ordinance?
I will.
Before we do this or at the end?
I can do that at the end. Go ahead.
Perfect. Next slide, please, Janet. So Lee Ferguson with Republic Services is here with a short presentation tonight. Republic Services, under several different names, has provided services to this community for approximately 25 years. Tonight, we are proposing a 7-year contract, and at this point, it just makes good financial sense since we can get a bigger bang for our buck for the Gun Barrel City residents. Moving forward with a 7-year contract will provide the residents of Gun Barrel a number of benefits, which will be outlined by Lee in her presentation. But first, a couple reminders from your city manager. The new contract will include additional dumpsters for events and community and residential cleanups, and it includes a $5,000 per year donation to the Park Special Fund for projects to improve the Gun Barrel City Park. Now, I'll invite Lee up to the podium.
Thank you all for having me back. I do believe you guys have your amendment to the contract in your packet. Is that correct? So what I wanted to do was just walk through those items. There is no official PowerPoint presentation, but I do have a copy of the one I did last month if you do need some information on that. So an amendment to the contract is we have a very solid contract in place that was implemented in 2019, and the amendment makes the changes that we all want to see for the next term. So moving through, and some of these I'll kind of breeze over, but for number one, the contract currently says that recycling will be provided on the first and third Fridays, but we service the city all Fridays of the month except the fifth one, so I wanted to make it read that we'll service recycling twice per month on Fridays. And then for number two, as Dr. Smith mentioned, we're going to be providing 20 roll-offs a year instead of 4 for the city. I know you guys are just incredible cleaner-uppers is the term that I can think of right now, but that I know that you guys will put those containers to good use. And then we do want to continue to be a good partner to the city, and we're all about, I'm all about being active and outside and parks, and so is Republic Services and cleaning things up. So we are happy to provide the $5,000 a year towards y'all's park efforts. So then, previously, our contract said that we have to put notice in the newspaper about holidays. And Dr. Smith and I talked about that. I read the Monitor. I'm not sure everybody reads the Monitor, but I think in this day and age, we all look at the internet and Facebook and things like that for notices. But what I've put in here is that we will utilize the city's communication outlets, and then of course our Call 'em All feature that you guys, get your recycling reminder, every other week. So we could do, hey, a holiday's coming up reminder. And then, like I mentioned last time, our Republic Services app does show holidays, and service moves ahead by 1 day. Number 5 is there was very, very, very specific information about the types of vehicles we had to use in the previous contract. But like we've talked about last time, we will be using the ASL once we order it. And like I mentioned, that will take about a year. And so that gives us plenty of time to educate everybody. But so I made the vehicle and equipment information more generic. And then as far as customer service, we updated it to say city manager. And then this gives residents and businesses the opportunity to call our Corsicana office or our customer service center. Then working through the contract, I noticed that the industrial customers, so those folks that have a roll-off or a compactor, there was not a franchise fee being pulled out of those. So I have added that the industrial services will pay the city a 5% franchise fee. So y'all will get 5% from your residential, commercial, and now industrial services, which of course can be put back into infrastructure and road upkeep. So I want to make sure y'all added that. The 7-year term with a 5-year renewal option, and it says the remainder of this provision is to remain unchanged. So that language says that it will renew unless either party notifies within 120 days of non-renewal. So that will stay the same. And then the first rate adjustment that residential customers will see is going to be January 1st of 2027. So that means that the rate will have held steady from May 1st of 2024 to January 1st of 2027. So it's basically 2 years and 8 months of staying the same. And then the commercial and industrial, their increase will take place 2026. And so your dumpster customers with the exception of the 1 time a week, 2, 3, and 4 yards, they will not see an increase for 20 months. Yeah, I did that math right. I'm sorry. For 20 months. So that's a positive thing for gun barrel businesses. And then for the residential rates, there was a processing fee calculation and things like that that we don't do anymore, so I took that out. And then the rest of it is basically 11, 12, and 13 say whatever is in the current contract, that stays. And then you can see on page 4, it's the new rate structure that will take effect January 1st. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or provide information.
Questions?
No.
Lee, thank you. And
Thank
we
you.
appreciate the skins in the game with a $5,000 per year donation. That shows really great partnership on your part, and we look forward to a long relationship with you. I'll now read that item
Thank you.
into the record. Ordinance number O-2024-031, an ordinance of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, approving the contract extension between the City of Gun Barrel City and Allied Waste Systems, Inc., DBA Republic Services of Corsicana, for an additional 7-year term through December 31st, 2031, authorizing the city manager to finalize and execute this contract extension, providing a severability clause, a repealer clause, an open meetings clause, providing for an effective date, and providing for the publication of the caption hereof. With all that being said, if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number O-2024-031, approving a contract extension between the city and Republic Services for additional 7-year term through December 2031.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Evans, second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I'll ask for a vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes. Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Merson, yes.
Boss, yes.
Motion passes. Moving on, 7C, we will consider and take action to spend up to $5,000 out of the Hotel Motel Fund and enter into a publicity and tourism agreement with Texas Bass Nation to sponsor their 2025 Team State Championship Tournament in September of 2025. Our sponsor on this item, again, will be our city manager, Dr. Smith.
Mayor, Council, Brett Stafford is here with Texas Bass Nation, and I'll ask him to go to the podium. He has a short presentation.
Good evening, Council. Brent Stafford with Texas Bass Nation. We'll just follow the slides up there, if you will. This is a flyer to start with that we will send out prior to the tournament, pending your approval of this request. So this is a little history, Sorry, a little history of the Bass organization. BASS is the Bass Angler Sportsman Society, started in 1967 by Ray Scott. The first Bassmaster Classic was held on Beaver Lake in Arkansas with 106 teams. That was a shotgun start. He fired a flare gun and everybody took off at once. We don't do that anymore. We do a numbered start. Everybody gets, all the boats get a number, and they go by the front of the dock. We make sure their live wells are empty and they're wearing a vest and a kill switch. It's very organized. So Ray learned over the first few years that fish care was important and growing the future of the organization was also important. And so that's when he brought states to the table. All of our, 46 of the states at that time organized a state organization of bass clubs around the state, and also invoked and practiced good fish care under the conservation. So we're still doing good conservation today. Bass is the leader in conservation. and how to take care of fish caught and released in a tournament. On the youth side, he was focused on youth because that's our future. And our youth program in Texas is still very strong. Our youth division director, Nathan Byerly, has had his state championship here on Cedar Creek, Gun Barrel City. For the last 3 years, you will see him again, hopefully. I represent the team division of the Texas Bass Nation. We now have, when this organization first started, our focus was on clubs, and we still have a club division. But we have 5 divisions now. We have the youth division, the college division, the club division, team division, and kayak division. So we are expanding the type of fishermen that we support here in Texas. The next slide there is just a little depiction of our current board of director organization. The next slide is a little snapshot of this is the team division cash flow. You can get an idea of how much money comes and goes through the team division. And you can see at the end of the year that we don't make a lot of money. We try to give as much money back to the anglers and teams as we can during the year in payback. On the next slide is a table that depicts a little bit of our participation over the last 3 years. In 2022, we had 12 teams at our state championship, 24 anglers on Sam Rayburn. In 2023, we had 30 teams, 60 anglers here at Cedar Creek. Earlier this year, we had 47 teams, 94 anglers at Possum Kingdom, and we hope to come back here in 2025, and I'm projecting about 60 teams this year. So the next slide is the reason I'm here. This is a request for $5,000. This is a list of how that money will be spent to put on our tournament here, and your help is greatly appreciated. We can't do this. We can't put on a quality tournament just on our own budget, and that's why we come to city councils like yourself and ask for help. So we appreciate your consideration. The next slide is a estimation of the economic impact to the area, approximately $88,000. 4 days, 50 to 60 teams. This is just an estimation. There's all kinds of variables around these numbers, but just a little snapshot of what we think will happen in your area. The next slide is how we will spread the word. We'll talk to some of the local motels about putting our guys up. We rent motel rooms and Airbnbs and things like that around the area. We'll put up flyers, contact radio stations, and let people know on social media that we're having this tournament. We will, of course, our website will be up and running, and your city, if you approve, will be highlighted as the sponsor of this tournament. Again, the team championship. The next slide is an event schedule. The crew comes in on Wednesday with a weigh-in trailer, starts the setup. On Thursday, we'll finish the setup of the trailer and have an angler registration and meal. Friday is the first day of competition, safe flight to 3. Saturday is the final day of competition, safe flight to 3. Calculate results, write checks, hand out money, hand out trophies, and crown the state champion. From our state championship, depending on how many fishermen we have participate around the state, we get to send one team forward to the national championship for every 25 teams that participated through the year. In 2023, we sent one team to nationals. This year in 24, we sent 4 teams. So we are, again, we're growing, and we hope that continues. The last slide here is a depiction of Tom Finley Park, where I hope to set up the weigh-in trailer. and how the traffic four-way in would flow. We will likely have a live release trailer on site as well. As the guys come across the stage, we'll take their fish and put them in the live release trailer. It's treated water, make sure they're in good health before we put them back in the lake. Any questions?
Any questions, staff? None?
I have two questions. One, is this like anyone can join, like register for this event, or is this where they qualified somewhere else?
This-
I'm here.
Sure. You do have to qualify for these state championships, and for the team division, that means you and your partner, a team, have to fish 3 qualifying events anywhere in the state to qualify to fish the state championship. So it is a bit of a qualifying event. But yes, if you get in early enough to fish those 3 tournaments around the state, you can qualify to fish this one.
That was where I was going. So then these people who are coming here could be coming from anywhere in the state.
Absolutely, yeah, they'll come. We have West Texas anglers, East Texas anglers, Dallas guys, all over.
And do you have a venue in mind? I think then there you had a $1,500 allowance for a venue. Do y'all have a venue in mind yet?
So when we were here in '23, I used, I don't remember, it's next to the CEFCO.
CR Legacy.
Yes, Legacy Hall. That's what we used last time. Probably use them again. That was a nice facility.
Gotcha. That's all the questions I have.
Anybody else?
Thank you for your
sir.
consideration.
No further discussion. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we spend the money on this, out of the hotel motel fund. Do I need to read the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. I take action to spend money up to $5,000 out of the hotel motel fund and enter into a publicity or tourism agreement with Texas Bass Nation to sponsor their 2025 Team State Championship tournament in September of 2025.
I have a motion by Mr. Burson. Do I have a second?
Second, Foster.
I have a second. No further discussion. A vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
Foster, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, sir. We will look forward to seeing you all. 7D, consider and take action to approve a purchase of 37,000 square feet of asphalt overlay to advanced paving in an amount not to exceed $120,576. Speaking on this will be our city manager, Dr. Smith.
I should have had Mr. Howell speak on this. There are 2 pictures on Harbor Haven Road, what's going to be done, and on Box Road. Janet, if you'll go to the next slide, I think there's some additional details. So each year, staff puts out a bid for services for street materials. We're actually in the process of doing that again now for 2025. Advanced Paving actually won the bid for asphalt overlay last year, and it is still in place. Our street department will go out and prepare the surface, and then Advanced Paving will come in and actually lay the asphalt. There's 2 roads to be completed that you saw there on that map. Box Road, it's 1,450 feet by 24 foot wide. Mike, shake your head, yes or no. 1,450 foot long by 24 foot wide. And then a section on Harbor Haven that is 160 foot long and 15 foot wide. This will be asphalt overlay of 37,200 square foot of 3-inch Type D HMAC asphalt. Thank you, sir. These are
Discussion?
just better drawings he sent me later in the day, so we added those. You can see the 2 section on Harbor Haven, and then on Box Road, what will be replaced.
So I have a question. So are you saying, because I see these bids in here and they were for 2024, so are you saying we're getting rebids now, or these bids are still good?
Those bids are still good, and I think they rebid in January. It's about 60 days, so it's typically March when they start again. So the bids that were in your packet are still good until we receive all the new bids. They bid it every spring, typically between January and March, they bid it, but those prices are good. And what they are is material prices, right? This one, they actually come in and lay the asphalt, but you see other things, and that comes to council for approval at a council meeting once we have gotten the bids and approved the vendors that we will use going forward.
Further discussion?
But today, we're just looking at purchasing the material, is what you're asking.
Today is the bid for advanced paving, which is actually the install of asphalt. That's the only one that has an install price. It's not any roadwork prep. It's just coming in, and I'm assuming hot mix. Our team preps the surface, and they will come in and lay the hot mix in that area.
Well, I just didn't know, because it said on here that we're approving to purchase it. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanna make sure
It's a purchase agreement, basically, for $37,000, but it is installed.
So we're going to have that done before the March, or till they,
Yes.
before the rebid. So
Yeah,
there's not even-
actually, I believe they are ready to go. So as soon as we get this contract signed, Mr. Howell is shaking his head, yes. As soon as we get this contract signed, our guys will go out and do what they need to do, and then we will have advanced paving in pretty quickly to get this done.
That's Mike, what criteria do you use to come up with these two sections of road to be paved?
Mike, please go to the microphone with your cane. This is the story of my life.
Don't trip over your cane.
Okay, the criteria on this particular road here, it was done by a company and it was chip sealed in, and they didn't prepare the surface real well, and the surface broke up with all the water and everything, and there's a lot of dips and humps and everything in it, and it's starting to fall apart and make soft holes. So we're gonna go back in. I went and looked at it, and my guys have been with me down there, and we've walked it, and there's certain areas that need to be resurfaced and a new base put down. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go in and go rebase it with a better base, and then they're gonna overlay it with 3 inches of asphalt. So that should be there another 5, 7, 10 years with asphalt. The chip seal doesn't seem to last that long, maybe a year or two, but on the main arterials like Box Road, Welch, Harbor Point, I want to do a good heavy lay of asphalt on those because that's the most traffic.
Thank
you.
Further discussion? Thank you, City Manager. If none, I will ask for a motion.
I move that we approve a purchase of 37,000 square feet of asphalt overlay to Advanced Paving in an amount not to exceed $120,576.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Burns, second.
I have a motion and a second. If no further discussion, a vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
Lost, yes.
Motion passes. 7E, consider and take action to adopt resolution number R-2024-015, amending resolution number R-2024-014 regarding catalytic converter grant. I will read the resolution into the record. Resolution number R-2024-015, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending resolution number R-2024-014, directing staff to file all necessary applications and supporting materials in application for a fiscal year 2025 SB 224 catalytic converter grant, acknowledging the terms and conditions of the grant, directing staff to ensure a timely application is made by established deadline of November 12th, 2024, and report back any results when available, providing for findings of fact and providing for an effective date. Our sponsor on this will be our City Manager, Dr. Smith.
Council, I'm going to punt this to our police chief, but I do want everybody to remember that we did approve this on November 11th or November 12th. Our grant has been submitted. This is the grant for Flock cameras. Our grant has been submitted to Flock, and they came back, and a large number of people had some wrong wording in their resolution. So this is just a new resolution with a couple of words changed. But if you have any questions specifically related to Flock and the need and how those cameras work, Chief Stevens will be happy to answer those. This is just a modified version of the resolution you have already passed, and the Flock group actually sent us the new resolution to be used.
Discussion?
Might ask you to give a brief overview of what these cameras are for and how will they work?
These cameras are set up all over the country. There's over 5,000 cities across the country that have these cameras set in them. Maybank just had them installed. From Maybank all the way through up to the Metroplex, they're installed. I think we're probably going to be the last one headed east for now. I don't know if Athens has them up and running yet or not. I know they're looking at them. And I don't know of anybody between us and Tyler other than that would have them. These cameras they're license plate readers. It's a system not only reading license plates, but say one of you had a burglary at your house, okay? Y'all are gone, burglary happens, the neighbors seen a truck at your house, say it was a black four-door Dodge pickup with a plumber's rack and a toolbox, okay? We show up to take the report, neighbor comes out and says, well, I thought they was working on the house, but this truck was sitting here. We can go back into that system and put black four-door Dodge truck with a plumber's rack and a toolbox, and every one of them that pass the cameras closest to your house will send us back the information on those trucks with the license plate, gives us a suspect to work. These cameras across the country are hitting over 3 billion license plates a day. They're recovering missing children, they're recovering Alzheimer's patients that have taken off and gotten lost. It'll be a major asset to not only the law enforcement, but the citizens and the businesses of this community.
Thank you.
Further discussion? If none, then I will ask for a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number R-2024-015, amending resolution R-2024-014 regarding Cadillac converter grant.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Foster, second.
I have a motion and a second. If no further discussion, a vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
Foster, yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
7F, discuss and/or consider and/or take action, if needed, on council action taken on agenda items 7J and 7K at the November 19th, 2024 City Council meeting to establish and make appointments to the Ordinance Review Committee per Resolution R-2024-011. Sponsor on this item will be Councilman Ken Foster.
Thank you. The question that I had, and that hopefully I think can be quickly answered, this was not a resolution, this Ordinance Review Committee was established by agenda, and during the appointment process at the meeting, 2 words had been added that were not part of the information packet. I don't believe that we had received at the time, called up to. The original, I believe, resolution called for a 12-member committee. At the time, I think they were short some, so the idea was to possibly should be up to 12, and those weren't added. I'm simply asking on the first part of this, should the council vote to approve the wording change and add up to this resolution?
Councilman Foster, that was done at the meeting. We did have that discussion. If council doesn't feel like that is the case, we're happy to bring it back, but I believe that was a discussion we had, and we clarified that language before the vote.
We even discussed in the workshop when Mr. Burson said he didn't know anybody, and Foster said he couldn't find anybody, and so I agreed to help, and we said at that time, I asked her then, do we need to have 12 or just up to 12? And she said up to 12, so we had that discussion.
Well, that's fine. I just wondered, do we need to formally put up to into the resolution or not? That's the question.
It was added at
Was it
the
added?
last meeting
Okay.
and signed, exactly.
Thank you. The second part of that is to, 7K is to appoint members to the Ordinance Review Committee. We do have, I think, 2 or 3 vacancies, and I see that 7G addresses this, so I will defer any other comments that I have to 7G. Thank you.
Mr. Foster, if you'll allow me a few moments. We've been kind of toying with this, and I think it's really important that we in public, kind of tie this all together. The definition of an incentive is a thing that motivates or encourages one to do something. Some of the information that's been going back and forth lately, I'm not really sure how that ends.
Mayor, this is on the ordinance review committee. We're not to the economic development section yet. I think that's where your comments are. Is that correct? Or am I wrong? I think your comments were on 9A. I could be wrong. If I am, go ahead.
I'll wait. Any further discussion?
No action, I believe, is what it is on that one.
I would recommend no action taken on 7F.
Do we have a motion?
I move that no action be taken on item 7F.
Evans, second.
I have a motion and a second.
Burns, yes.
Ms. Evans? We're voting?
Yes.
Yes?
Jacobs, yes.
Burson, yes.
Lost, yes.
Motion passes. Moving on. 7G, consider and take action to appoint Deborah DeLeon and Lana Aarons to the Ordinance Review Committee. Our sponsor on this will be our city manager, Dr. Smith.
I received a request from Councilmember Jay Burson to add this item to the agenda. As mentioned in the last item, we have up to 12 members that can be on the committee. We currently have 9. We had our first meeting last Thursday. It was a great kickoff. They've appointed a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And we have our first meeting on January the 13th. Councilmember Burson initially mentioned at the work session that he did not have names to add. He is now requesting that we add these 2 members as his appointments, Deborah DeLeon and Lana Aarons.
Discussion.
I'd like to say that, I'd like to ask first Jay Burson if he is aware of the actions of Lana Aarons for the last year, a year ago into the city.
I am quite aware.
Okay, and so did you,
but
excuse me?
you don't let me finish the statement.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying that Lana did have she did bring some issues to the city, but she also brought some light to some things that were going wrong.
We can agree to disagree.
And she also knows the ordinances quite well because she says we're not enforcing the ordinances we have in place.
So again, my question is, we're trying to look what's best for the city. The ordinance review is what's best for the city. The things that she'd done to the staff, she personally attacked them, she went after them. These were not things that had to do with ordinances. These were not things, these are just her actions that she'd taken. And you're thinking the best thing, I'm just asking, for the city of Gumbel is to ask your staff to work with this person. Did you even ask them how they felt about that?
It is my right to pick who I want on the board.
Absolutely it is.
And no, I did not ask staff because the interaction between the staff, this is a review committee coming back to us to make decisions if we want to change the ordinances.
But they do have to work with staff.
Sure, but they're citizens of our community as well.
Right, but again, we're trying to figure out what's best for the city, not for our, personal gain here. So it's just in
I
there.
have no gain out of it.
I just can't imagine how a council person, or anyone for that matter, can take somebody who's done the things that they've done to the city, to the citizens, to the constituents, and feel that they ask the city and their constituents to work with such people. I am not saying that people haven't changed and that she's used it for good going elsewhere, but time heals all wounds. It's just not been enough time. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you for your opinion. Everybody has one.
That's right, you're correct.
I want to know how we came up with these 2 names.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Does it matter?
It does to me.
First,
Just because you have to remember, Jay, you sat here in a work session and said you didn't know anybody. Now, all of a sudden, you've made friends, and we have 2 people.
let me, you're trying to make an issue out of this, but let me just explain something to you. At the time, I was headed to an elk hunt, and I told you I didn't have time to get the things together, and I said, just go through it. And that's what happened. Now, let me tell you why I picked the two I did. Okay? You were a big supporter of Lana back in the day. I don't know if your attitudes have changed. Deborah Dion was running against you, and I don't know if that's an issue, but I can tell you she's been in a lot of municipalities, and I've talked to her. She asked me why, and I told her why, and she said that I know government, I've been involved in government, and I think she'd be an asset on going through the Ordinance Review Board.
I don't disagree with you, Jay. I know that both of these women are very, very smart, and very familiar with Gun Barrel, and I'm the one who initially put Lana's name forward, but when it was said to me that not enough time has passed for certain city staff members to feel comfortable having a working relationship with her, I agreed to pull her name off. And we do have to be sensitive to, you know, this is a workplace. This is where our city staff have to feel, they have to show up here every day and feel comfortable, you know, and so I absolutely respected their decision to pull her name. So I would just ask for you to consider the staff's feelings, that's all.
Well, I can just tell you, it's been on the record that I was going to introduce these two people. It's been on the agenda. Nobody has come forward to me and said anything negative. I know there were some controversials. I mean, I know things were said and done, but it was in a very contentious time in City Hall.
But it was personal attacks. It wasn't just about trying to do the right thing. I've tried to work with Lana in the beginning to do the right thing. And I told her, if she wants to do the right thing going forward and you want to make changes and you want to hold people's feet to the fire, I'm your girl. If you're trying to go backwards and trying to punish somebody and trying to put somebody in jail or trying to get them fired, that's not me. I'm not your girl. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't work out. And I think Lana is very smart. I think she has great talents. And I think that done for good, what she's done in the last year, can be great. You know what I'm saying, going forward. I just don't think this is where it is a good place for her at this time, in my opinion.
Okay, I respect your opinion.
Well, I had a lot of, well, I'm not saying I had a lot of issues with Lana, but she did create a lot of work. And when I saw this on here, I had a problem. Well, I don't know that I had a problem. I don't have a problem with Deborah DeLeon. I don't even know her. Lana could be good. And I'm just going to trust the city manager that she can handle all of this. I really am. I think she can. And I don't feel like I have the authority to ask Jay to take his people off. I just don't.
I believe the resolution does give the authority for including the mayor, to appoint 2 people. Is that correct?
I think so.
To be voted on during the resolution.
Well, I move that we take action to appoint Deborah DeLeon and Lana Hearns to the Ordinance Review Committee.
Second.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Vote from my left, please.
Burns, no.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
Foster, yes.
Motion passes. 8, Planning and Zoning. 8A, consider and take action to assign term limits for newly appointed Planning and Zoning Board members. Our sponsor of this be City Manager Dr. Smith.
Okay, council, bear with me for a second. At the last meeting, City Council appointed 3 members to the Planning and Zoning Committee: Gilbert Shelby, Rob Ray, and Charla Johnson. The vacancies included, and Janet and I figured this out the next day, 2 two-year terms and 1 one-year term because Robert Dye resigned from the board. That left 1 one-year term. The charter and the code of ordinances and legally, there is no right way to pick when you have some 2-year terms and a 1-year term, or some 1-year terms and 1 2-year term, how those members get appointed to those places. Y'all obviously are voted into your places. Typically, 3 go off, 3 come on, or there's 3 that are terming out in 2024. We elect 3 members, but this is a weird one. As an option to appoint people to terms, Janet and I randomly drew names. Janet wrote names on a piece of paper. I drew them out of a bowl, and we placed them in the order that I drew them. And in place 1, 2, and 6, Gilbert was the first name drawn. He was placed in place 1 for the 2-year term. Rob Ray was the second name drawn. He assumed place 2 for a 2-year term. And Charlotte Johnson was the last name drawn, and that assumed place 6, which was the 1-year term. Tonight, council has 2 options. You can approve it as we have presented it. And again, there is no right way to do this, so we just drew out of a hat. That's what we do for places on a ballot. And so that's what we did for this. Or council can choose not to do that and put these 3 people in any place you see fit. We do need a motion that says such to appoint Gilbert to place 1, Rob to place 2, Charlotte to place 6, or any version of that, Charlotte to place 1, Rob to place 6, Gilbert to place 2, however council wants to do it. And then we will put them in those places on the member list, and that will be the term that they serve.
Discussion?
Well, I don't have a problem with the way you all did it. I mean, someone else might, but I think it's okay.
I agree with you.
Do I have a motion?
I move to take action to assign term limits for newly appointed P and Z board members.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If no further discussion, vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
False, yes.
Motion passes. 8B, consider and take action to adopt ordinance number O-2024-032, amending the official boundary map of the city. I'll read the ordinance into the record. Ordinance number O-2024-032, an ordinance of the City Council for the City of Gun Barrel City, Texas, amending the official boundary map for the city per section 3.0711 of the Home Rule Charter, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date. Our sponsor on this will be our city manager, Dr. Smith.
Janet, if you don't mind going to the next slide, I think we put the map on there. So by charter, each time we annex or de-annex property, legally we are supposed to approve a new boundary map. We partner with East Texas COG to help us do this, to make sure they provide our GIS services, to make sure that we get it right. Brittany has worked very closely with them because there were a number of little tweaks that needed to be made that had nothing to do with annexing and de-annexing, and she has spent a significant amount of time over the last several weeks with Janet trying to figure this out. We will need council to approve a boundary map. You see there are the outlines of our city limits. At the last meeting, or several meetings ago, we annexed in the property right off of 198, of 334, and then back, maybe even last year about this time, we de-annexed a very small sliver. Oh, look, Janet has almost exactly 1 year ago. So on November the 14th, Janet's wiggling her mouth for me. And on January 23rd, we de-annexed a small sliver. This boundary map addresses those 2 issues. You can see Janet there with number 1 and number 2. And it's just anytime we annex or de-annex, we have to approve a new boundary map, and that's what this is.
Further discussion? Questions?
Move that we take action to adopt ordinance number 02024-032, amending the official banner map of the city.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Evans, second.
I have a motion and a second. If no further discussion, vote from my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes.
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
False, yes.
Motion passes. Economic Development, 9A. Consider and take action to approve the Large Business Incentive Program policy. Speaking on this will be our EDC Director, Dr. Smith.
Next slide, please, Janet. Tonight in front of you is the Large Business Incentive Policy, Program Policy. This policy has been discussed by the City Council and the EDC numerous times. At the last meeting of the City Council, there was a request to add some teeth to the policy. The policy and the concerns were shared with the EDC attorney, and he added the following language under performance agreement. The policy already said we acknowledge the performance agreement will have to be executed prior to receiving any incentives. The attorney added further, we acknowledge the performance agreement will contain all state law requirements, including the capital investment to be made, the jobs created or retained, the penalty for non-performance, including repayment of the monies provided, including an appropriate interest rate. We acknowledge this performance agreement may include any deed of trust, any corporate guarantee or individual guarantee as determined by the city to be appropriate security for the incentive being provided. As explained by the attorney, a corporate or individual guarantee is a legal agreement whereby the loan is repaid by either an individual or a corporate third party if the borrower defaults on the loan. Several emails have exchanged, and I have even had requests from EDC members to pull this and just make it internal guidelines so we can get this program moving. It is mission critical that we do not pull this item tonight, as we need to get this policy finalized so the EDC can get back to the business of recruiting and discussing incentive programs with potential businesses.
Discussion?
Yes, I'd like to read I had to write it out because I would miss something. In regards to the large incentive program, I will do my best to put my opinion on the record in the shortest version possible. I was on a committee to establish guidelines for the EDC and future EDC boards to follow and to be able to protect the monies received from the taxpayers. When I ran for city council, I told my constituents I would put public safety and being a good steward of the taxpayers' money as my top priority. My fiduciary duties will not be compromised. I will respectfully disagree with other opinions and move forward. I have been disparaged in regards to my votes. I have had threats as well as false statements made about me. I will stand strong in the face of these issues. I will not change my decisions or votes unless clear evidence can be brought to my attention that my vote is wrong. I fight for the city of Gunboro with honor and respect. In regards to the application and the policy for the large business program should clearly state what is required before receiving a loan. Money should never be loaned below prime as an interest rate. A personal guarantee is nothing more than a promise to repay on good faith. Sufficient collateral as well as personal guarantee is suggested. Real estate, stocks, bonds, CDs, life insurance, or other tangible assets work as a collateral. Second mortgages should not be considered sufficient collateral. An independent credit report should be mandatory on all loans. Gunboro EDC is a nonprofit corporation loaning and granting taxpayers money to incentivize businesses to grow and bring jobs to Gunboro in order to increase the tax base. However, loaning monies not secured with sufficient collateral is not a good business practice. With this said, I would like City Council to consider tabling or amending the large business incentive program for further discussion. I would prefer to be amended. I also suggest that the City Council consider putting loans that are in default up for collections, up to and including collection fees or attorney fees as stated in their promissory notes. In the event no monies are collected and we are forced to write these loans off, we must, by federal law, submit a 1099 form to the IRS. If we don't submit these forms, the EDC or council can get some largeable fines issued from the IRS. Thanks for your listening. My wife and I wish everybody here a blessed and Merry Christmas, and thank you for your time.
What is it, can you tell me specifically what it is you're wanting amended? Because I'm not willing to table this item again. I'm more than willing to
I want to advance.
discuss and compromise, but if you have to tell us specifically what it is that you are asking to amend.
I'd like to answer that, and I'd be more than happy to make this in terms of
She's talking to Jay.
You want me to?
Yes.
The problem about amending the deal is we need to have a set interest rate, okay? And it could be prime, it could be wherever it is. We cannot borrow money.
How do you do that? Those rates change all the time. How do you set something like that?
Well, you know what? When you go into a bank or you come to a project, you see what prime is, you can find what prime is, and you set that rate, and that's what they pay out the note. You're not going to loan money at 2% when we have to borrow money to do our projects and pay 4 or 5%.
You are 100% correct. I do not agree with handing out, 2 and 3% interest rates when rates are significantly higher than that at this point. But I don't think all of this has to be on a case-by-case, day-to-day basis. We have to look at what rates are when that business approaches us.
I agree.
So how are you going to put a specific rate in this policy?
When you go to sign a promissory note with them and you tell them what the rate is and you put it on the application, we are going to not loan money below prime.
Absolutely.
And that's all I'm wanting it, so they're aware of it. And
So
also,
what you're saying, so to clear this up, if we put in language into the large business program that we will consider what the daily rate is, and to decide, I don't know what that verbiage would be, that would clear all of this up and we can get it passed.
that and some way that collateral's on there, because we are, I can't really tell you the ones that we have. I have been through them. I have one right here, and it says we can collect on attorney fees and collection fees, and we need some meat in it. And so when people come to borrow money from us, okay, they know that we're going to turn them into the IRS, which we are required to by law. We have something in writing other than a handshake saying, I want to pay your money back to you, and that's all we get. We can't loan money like that. You can't get money anywhere in the United States
I
like that.
feel like the language that was added covers the collateral portion of what our goal
Well,
was.
I'm just saying that's what my opinion is, and I had to put it on the record. I'm from a banking family. I've talked to people that are I've talked to banks here, and they said you can't loan money to people or to.
Let me explain my frustration.
Okay.
We keep having these conversations, and I feel like every time we have this conversation, it's a different issue. Like we talk about this, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna compromise, we're gonna amend, we're going to change the language, and then you two pick a different issue to have. So it's like you're always moving the goalpost, so it's impossible to.
Let me ask you something. Didn't we ask to have a meeting with the EDC and go over this as a council and an EDC together, and it didn't happen? We asked for it.
They've had their own meetings. They're an EDC board, okay? They have a board. They have discussed this in detail. They have reached out to their attorneys. They've done their due diligence, and they sent it to council. All the things that you're asking for is you want to put into this. This is an incentive program, not a bank. We're not a bank.
We are
We're
a
not trying to
lending-
be a bank.
we-
We're an incentive. And if I want to give an incentive to somebody, you're tying their hands to where they can't. It has said in the past that if the EDC wants collateral, they can ask for collateral. If they don't ask for collateral and it comes to us, we can ask for collateral. It doesn't have to be all sitting down on all these rules and stuff.
We have
It's going on,
$86,000.
and all that's going to happen is the city of Gumbel is going to dwindle because no one's going to want to come to Gumbel because they're not going to want to take this as large incentive plans. So don't act like you're trying to do what's best for Gumbel because this isn't what's best for Gumbel. We should be able to incentivize people to come to the city however that sees fit and however the EDC decides at that time, however the council decides at that time. And I'm not here for losing money. I don't want us to make bad deals or anything like that. And that's why we're trying to get a guideline here. But you can't tie their hands at the same time to where they can't do anything.
Mr. Burson, what would you consider an incentive in this program?
You can't borrow money anywhere.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you, what is the incentive? I will read you again because I was a little premature and maybe you didn't understand or hear me. Incentive is a thing that motivates or encourages one to do something. So to encourage or motivate someone to come do business here, what is the incentive in that plan that you have?
The incentive is you cannot borrow money anywhere.
That's not an incentive.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
You
not
won't
an
let me finish.
incentive, Jay.
You won't.
Jay, this is what we've allowed you to do, is go in this little circle, and with all due respect, we're not going to allow you to do that. Now, let me add something else. Once a relationship by and a willingness of a business to do business in Gun Barrel, then we can get to all that stuff. We can get to the financials. We can get to the application. We can get to verification process. When you first make an initial contact with somebody, you throw out all these demands and all this stuff like that. If you think that is an incentive, then you and I read from a different dictionary, okay? I will give you an example because I have examples also. And I've visited with several mayors, of which I'm a part of the Mayor's Coalition. The Atwood story is a very interesting story, one here in Gun Barrel. Just so everyone that doesn't know that, Atwoods was courted by Gun Barrel City. Well, they came here and had their meeting and looked over that plan, promptly were driving out of town, stopped, saw the Main Street, walked into Maybank City Hall, sat down, and I think everybody knows what happened after that. Now, it has also come to our attention, our city manager has told us that there has been some few small businesses that have reached out and have showed some initial interest, but then have never gotten back to us. Now, let me ask you two guys, okay? Why is it that you think we're not getting past that point if we're incentivizing these individuals? Okay, that silence is good for me. Now we'll move on. After speaking with many of these mayors regarding the large business plans they have, it's been their experience that they're much easier to deal with than small business because they're used to the application process, the financial responsibilities of all this, and the bureaucracy that goes with these. That's just part of the negotiation they understand. That's part of doing business. Also, most of them, and I have several, and if you want some specifics, I can give those to you. Most of those large businesses are all on an auto draft. They're the easiest things to deal with. You never even have to mess with those people. The smaller ones, I get it, because there are some extenuating circumstances. But just like Councilman Jacobs said, we have to deal with those on an individual basis. But again, if you're making it hard and you're not incentivizing anyone to be here, I don't know what they're trying to do. I understand your goal is to do away with bad debt, and I appreciate you being a steward of that. But let me tell you this. If the goal is to never have a bad debt, then you're never going to do business. Amen. Period. End of discussion. And if any of y'all want to argue that, then we're way past having any type of a regular discussion. Sometimes a bad debt occurs. Mm-hmm. Ask a bank. Ask those banks. Ask your family bank. They've never had a bad debt, huh? Okay. Well, that's incredible.
I'm letting you talk.
But this is if you're going to ensure that we never have a bad debt, you guys are never going to do any business here. I mean, you're just not going to do that. I think we have. Let's talk about slapping good. There's one. There are members on this council right here. I was not a part of that, but there are some members here that approved the slapping good. How was that done? How were those people? What were the financials like? What was the due diligence on that one? I mean, we're just picking at things and going in a circle. Large business policy. You know why we can't do any business? Because we don't even have a policy. Let's say Boot Barn. I've heard that name thrown around. Boot Barn comes to us. We can't do anything right now. You know why? Because we're dead in the water. We don't have a plan. And the small business plan that we have, again, I will refer back to some of the information that the city managers told us. Those people have reached out to us when I've been at EDC meetings, which I would encourage all of you guys to come to. I haven't seen many of you, but they haven't ever gotten back to us. And I want to know why that is.
And I'd also would
Never,
like
never
to-
mind. This is just.
Yeah. I'd also like to clarify one thing that Jay said that's not true. We do not loan money we don't go to the bank and loan money to loan it to other people. We don't do that. We don't go to the bank and pay a higher interest rate and turn around and loan it at a lower interest rate. EDC's never done that. So the only thing they have done is purchased a piece of property and had that piece of property that, yes, they have a higher, maybe a higher interest rate in, but they bought that property and then they used that property as an investment into something else. But they never went to the bank to borrow money to loan it to somebody else.
I think one of the things that we're talking about here is not not opposed to incentivize anything. It's for the people who may want to come in and get a loan and don't make their payments. And we're looking now at 2 or 3 on our records now with about $60,000 owed to EDC that is not being paid. This is all my concern is we need to have enforcement, but we need to have some words here that when somebody comes to borrow money, and then basically what the incentive that we have to offer is that we can offer money at a lower interest rate. That's basically all we really have to offer.
That's great, Mr. Foster. I appreciate all that. But as a point of order, you're talking about stuff that's on the books now. Let me read this again, because I guess we are not understanding it. This is the new large business incentive program. Incentive. You're worried about us being able to not have happen what's happened in the past. We're trying to bring business, okay? We're trying to be competitive in this market, okay? I'm not comparing us to anybody else, but we do have to be competitive with everybody else. And what I do not see from you all at that end of the dais is something that incentivizes any business to want to come here and be a part of Gun Barrel City. I do not see the incentive.
Well, I'm looking at the application packet. If you look at that, it's very clear what's required. And everyone, we're asking to fill it out. So if you look at the packet, there needs to be some changes there as well. But I'm not opposed to this, but I think that we do need, as a taxpayer, to know that if we're taking money from them and loaning it at a prime rate or something below, that there is some reasonable thought that if there's a problem, we will get our money back.
I would agree 100% with that. I think you're 100% correct. But correct me if I'm wrong. As an elected official, you are also supposed to be moving this city forward. Is that correct?
Well, yes. Well, I think we all are, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But I would like.
I have not yet gotten the incentives from you or Councilman Burson.
Well, I'd like to move that we adopt this large business incentive program with one addition or amendment to section 7.72 to be specific.
And what would that amendment say?
If you look at the very last sentence, it says, I or we acknowledge that this performance agreement may include any deed of trust, corporate guarantee, or individual guarantee, verifying collateral, tangible assets as a primary or principal obligation from the guarantor as appropriate security from default for the incentive being provided, period. We asked for this in the application packet now. Are we gonna take that out as an incentive? That if you're gonna borrow money, you don't have to put up any type of, thing that you might pay back? It's in our application packet.
It's
now.
just not required now. It is at the discretion of the EDC, and then if the EDC doesn't do it, it's at the discretion of the council. You're just trying to control the future EDC people and what they want to do, and control the future council, because I guess you have no faith in either one.
No,
Because
if you looked at the application packet, it is in there now.
Again, they have the right to request that. They can request the collateral. They had that life insurance policy for Westerfield. They can do whatever they want.
Right.
Council can do what they need. If we see something come to us and says, well, I think that not needs some collateral, we can send that back. You have the right to do that now. The EDC has a right to do that now. You're just trying to make it where it's required of them, and therefore it ties their hands, because you get a large business come in here and they may not want to give you any of their collateral. Boot Barn comes in here and says, we want to be on my policy, or you want me to do my personal guarantee? You know, why would you want to tie your hands to that?
I will not use the gentleman's name, but I approached Dr. Smith, and we had a meeting with this gentleman about a month or two back, and he wanted to move his business here. He lives in another area of the lake, but he wanted to move his business here. But he wanted to know what incentives we had, what we could do for him. And we really didn't have anything to tell him.
We have to be creative, the fact that we don't have the ad valorem tax that other cities have. And so you got to let the EDC do their job. Let them come up with some ideas and some ways. And I understand that we're not in the business of making money. We're not in the business of losing money. I think we all agree with that. And we need to make good decisions and make good loans. But that stands at the EDC level just like it does at the council level. But we're not a bank. We're an incentive program to try to entice people to build the business, to grow the business here, and to strive to be better, to make more money. And I just think that if you try to keep putting in all these restrictions and needed, which if I was a bank, I would want, but I'm not a bank. I am an ADC that is supposed to support growth of the city, and I feel like you're just they can't do that if we put in all that verbiage.
I thought it was interesting in one of the emails, the attorney of the EDC asked the question, are you a bank or an EDC? Why would he ask that?
That's a good question, because we are a lending institution.
We're not a bank.
We're not.
We're lending money.
Or we're not a bank.
I didn't want to do this, but it's getting very contentious up here. And I want to make one statement that came out of, this was not when Angie was here. This was not any time, Angie has no involvement in this, but this is a loan that's in default that we're trying to collect on. And in this application that is signed by our city, that the agreement we has on here, it says on here a $250 bonus for executive director. A total sought after was $82,650 with a payback of $82,400, which is the difference that the executive director got in a bonus for passing this through. Now, that to me is a kickback.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm just telling you, that's why we're trying to set some guidelines.
No, but guidelines are one thing, and to make sure that you're reading, and this council's a different council, I'm hoping the EDC is a different EDC at that point too. But I agree with that, and that should not be allowed or had. But what you're doing doesn't change that. If they were to put some kind of kickback on a piece of paper, unless you're reading it, and that's the duty of the EDC, and that's the duty of the councils to read that at the time. And if they fail to read it, I can't go backwards, Jay. I can only go forward. And there's some bad loans. There's some loans that I have approved that, to be honest, I can't speak of, that I wish I didn't. Learning something new on council. Some of those, and I think the EDC did wrong too, but I think they're learning, we've learned. But again, you can't tie their hands to do it either, because at this point, they're not going to give out any large incentives.
Incentive is like a 380 agreement or something like that. I have not yet asked you guys repeatedly, give me, please, an incentive for some business. Let's say we're talking to Boot Barn, okay? And Boot Barn's sitting out there. Give me your incentive for them to want to come here. Just like pretend they're there and you're talking to them, either one of you.
Well, the first thing is we're going to say we have some land here that we're working with, we've been looking at, we have some property. Would this maybe work for you? Then we're going to go say we have money that we can loan you, or we can help you with your infrastructure. If it's a loan, it's the same thing. You're incentivizing infrastructure, you're incentivizing a lower interest rate than they could get at a bank. And everything is an incentive. You can make anything an incentive. That's what it is. If you can't borrow, if you can't loan, if they were opening a business and they go to the bank and they can't, and they're paying 7% interest on their money, and we loan it to them at prime, they're saving 2% on their money.
Okay, I want you, that was a great thing you said. Now show me on that large business incentive program where it says any of that.
That's the whole thing. It's an open.
That's not what it says. I'm asking you what it says on there. I'm asking for incentives.
Okay, I'm just going to put
Well, I think the incentive program in the city is going to have to come from two sources. One is EDC, is one from the city itself. We do not have a property tax, but we're going to have, there are some things that we could waive in terms of fees, zoning, so forth, so on. EDC might come in for infrastructure, things like that, for building commercial property on the street. So it's not them or us, but it's going to have to be a collaborative effort for incentives. And so we're not looking for EDC for all the incentives here. What people I think are going to be looking for, if they're going to develop anything, is some help with either construction, infrastructure. That's where they're going to be looking for EDC. You're going to be looking for planning and zoning and waivers of fees and things like that from the city. So it's a combination.
Agreed. But of course, I think even in that email from the attorney, he said that EDC does not usually, he's not seen that EDC does, a tangible property for collateral. So, I mean, why do we want to be more difficult? I've seen like more difficult on other ways of development here. Why are we trying to be more difficult in the EDC process? It's just, I mean, have y'all checked? I mean, I'm just asking, not that we have to do what other people do by any means, but if the lawyer says that the EDC does not usually use tangible property for collateral, why are we now trying to do that?
Well, I think that is a good business practice, but we got to be honest with ourselves.
But we're the only one
We're
good.
really
How
looking.
is it a good business
We're really
practice
looking
if it's
here at
not
a program
common thing
that's
for other cities to do?
This program will be in the future for our future city council members and future city managers. Now,
Does this make us
I would say
competitive?
that the city manager could come in and propose to change this next year if they had a new city manager. And we'd be looking at it again. This is something that's not going to be, I don't think, here forever. But I do think as long as we're here and we can have some semblance of security in terms of the money we loan out, I don't think that's a bad practice at all.
But I believe if we are writing this program, if we can please stay in the present, and we got to stop living in the past, okay? If we're trying to write this in the present, we have to get out of our way in worrying about all the bad stuff that's happened in the past. You can't move forward if you're worried about it. We'll learn from that. We have learned from that, okay? But at the same time, large businesses are way different than small businesses.
Yeah.
You know that.
Of course. I don't think this,
I don't know why we're having such a hard time with this one. I would have understood us having more trouble with small business because small business, I was a small business and I was self-employed. I mean, it was hard to get money. There's a lot of stuff and personal guarantees that have to go, but large businesses are used to this. I don't know why we're trying to make it so hard on probably one of the safest deals that we could have.
It's the small business ones that we've gotten ourselves in trouble with.
Right.
Not the large business
Where do you draw the
policies.
line between the small and large then?
I think it's 100,000, isn't there? Is there a number?
It isn't a dollar amount. Small business are grants. The small business policy has to do with grants. The large business policy has to do with 6 pages of options of things people can choose from. It isn't about the size of the business. It is about the type of request that they have.
So this would be all loans.
This would be there are 4 or 5 pages of options. Loans is one. There are 4 or 5 different pages of options that we could provide incentives. One version of that is a loan. I don't have it right here in front of me, but there are, again, I think there's 14 pages of different things that they could ask for, including infrastructure assistance, employment-related assistance, economic development district establishment, hotel occupancy tax waivers, support for state incentives, support for federal incentives. There are, 6 pages of different kinds of things people could ask for. A loan is one of those dozen or 18.
So for clarity, if somebody came in and wanted $20,000 before the EDC, okay, it would fall under this large business incentive program, is that correct?
If it was a loan, yes, I can't imagine best practice for the EDC would be to loan 20,000, but then
20 or above.
again, with that, we wouldn't be going to a bank and asking for money, so we wouldn't be competing with Prime. The goal of EDCs and the standards set by EDCs is that they are more conducive to bringing, the enhancement for us is we bring them to town in exchange for dollars, and then they contribute to our sales tax. So that is, we wouldn't borrow that money from the bank and then loan it to them. So we wouldn't borrow it for 7% and then loan it to them for 2%. We would have that in our coffers to loan to them. But the whole point of this entire policy is the 20 other ways we can provide incentives to businesses outside of giving somebody $300,000. That's the point of this.
On page 14, it says the council shall make the final decision regarding the merits of the application and the appropriate incentives to be provided.
Yes.
So,
It's always been in there. Yes, that's why I said earlier, that the EDC can make a first run at it, and if they bring it to us and we think that it needs collateral, we can say it at that time. We don't have to put it in there.
yes, we can do that, but then it'll be the same thing right now. We'll be, they're gonna say, oh, you're trying to kill the project and all that. So, if y'all approve this, or if we approve it, you've got to understand that we've got the final say whether you like it or not.
Correct.
That's all there is.
And I don't think all along anybody has questioned that. You'll notice in this policy specifically, and it's very specific language, it is about the EDC and the city, and it's called the city throughout. That is one entity because ultimately the city has that. I will be honest with you, as your city manager and as your EDC director, and having overseen a very large EDC department in my previous city, we never ask for collateral. We don't want those goods. I don't want their oven and their tables and chairs. That's not worth what you think it's worth. We're much better with the personal or corporate guarantee, and that was what the attorney was attempting to lead us to, is getting that personal or corporate guarantee that then, if the lender defaults, there is a backup there to be responsible for the loan. I owned restaurants. I was married a long time ago, and we owned restaurants for a lot of years, and I could have given you every piece of equipment in that restaurant, and it would not have paid off 1/10 of the loan that some of our businesses have taken out. That's just the reality, and that's why the attorney said, I've never seen an EDC ask for assets, because that's just not the best. There are other things, absolutely. But I think that's where your corporate and personal guarantee comes in, whether that's a life insurance policy, whether that's a deed of trust, whether that's, whatever that is, I think that's where you see the option to do that. So, and that's some of the hesitancy you're seeing from the EDC, because they really are looking at the bigger picture in how do we get this? There are a lot of options in there. A loan is one. Y'all may never approve another loan based on the recent history we have, and that's up to the council to decide. But getting this policy moving forward opens the door to a lot of things, and maybe you do have a business that you're willing to give less than prime. It's EDC money, it's in our coffers. You're willing to do that because we're not borrowing money. That's a decision the council ultimately gets to make, and the EDC is very aware of that, I promise you. And that's the goal of this policy being in front of you tonight, and us not just pulling it from the EDC and saying, okay, that's just what we're going to practice, because the right thing to do on a policy is to bring that to council. And here we are, and you guys have seen lots of feedback from our attorney. Yes, the application is online. Yes, the application asks them for a lot of information, because we want to have that there at our disposal so that when we publish this, people can go out, look at what all their options are, and bring to the table, to the Loan and Grant Committee, all the things we might need. We might need some type of collateral, we might need guarantee, we might need a lot of things, and they have that ready, but this policy doesn't require that as a element of a performance agreement if it's not appropriate. If it is appropriate, we have it at our fingertips, we have the ability to bring that in. You know, I've had some questions about the attorney being involved, and we had a very long discussion at our EDC meeting, and Ms. Rankin is a member of the EDC, and Ms. Rankin and I had a very long discussion about, in the past, the attorney hasn't always been involved. I'll tell you, and you can do with this what you want. Your previous executive director amended performance agreements and presented them to council. That is a legally binding document that your attorney should see. Every amendment should go to the attorney. Your attorney should be a part of that conversation. I can't fix what happened, right? You've got some loans, we're dealing with those. I can't fix those. But if we want to be a viable candidate for businesses moving forward, we have to give them options. Because there are a lot of places around us that are promising them a gold-plated egg if they come there. And we are surviving off of the dollars they give us. And that's it. And we will put ourselves out of the market if we don't leave the door open to have hard discussions and allow the policy to work for the business and the city.
I mean, we got caught up, I know, in a bunch of different words that everybody got caught up in and stuff, but I'll throw one out. You should be the large business requirement program and throw out incentive if you're not going to do that, because that's basically what you're doing. Under that, when we first talked about, we talked about an umbrella, just to be inviting to business. Let's not get into all the minutia of all that stuff. It's in there anyway. Everyone gets to review it, and we get the final say-so. But we don't have to throw that in their face the first time we meet these people. We want to entice them to come. We all have this ugly cloud hanging over our heads, and that's all why all of us got in here, is so we can undo some of that. And I just think we are losing sight of the fact that an incentive program is something that entices and encourages someone to come here and open their business.
And if we don't, I promise you, we make it difficult. The city of Maybank will welcome them with open arms.
Yep.
What I read is a definition of individual guarantee. It's not taken out at all. It's still in this document.
So whatever's in the ones that's proposed is what we're proposing.
Well, I have made a motion to take action to approve this large business incentive program with the addition that I wrote. We either take a second on that or vote it up or down, okay? I've made a motion early on.
And I don't even have in front of us to even look at or consider. Right?
I'll read it again if you'll let me. That we acknowledge this performance agreement, which may include any deed of trust, corporate guarantee, or individual guarantee, verifying tangible assets is a primary or principal obligation for the guarantee as appropriate security for default for the incentive being provided, from default for the incentive being provided. That's what I've added. This does not take away whatsoever from corporate guarantee or individual at all, but it does offer some general definition of what we're talking about.
So is that your motion?
That's my motion, is to add this as amendment and pass it.
I'll make a second.
We have a
Councilman
motion.
Foster, is this
You can't
what
make
you
a second.
sent in the email?
I'm sorry?
I'm trying to understand where you're getting the information.
Yeah, this was,
Was this in the email that you sent yesterday?
yeah, I believe it was.
What I have here is we acknowledge that a performance agreement must be executed, and that is what was already in what you guys have from the attorney. I believe the addition came after corporate guarantee or individual guarantee. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
That's not what he was reading.
All it is a definition of what an individual guarantee is.
So we're putting definitions in the contracts, what you're saying?
Explaining, I think.
Well,
Ken, are you proposing that on the second sentence, it says, I or we, the language from the attorney is, acknowledge that this performance agreement may include any deed of trust, corporate guarantee, or individual guarantee as determined by the city to be appropriate security for the incentive being provided. Are you proposing, if we're looking at the current one that is proposed by the attorney, are you looking at just adding language after corporate guarantee or individual guarantee?
Well, that's what I
That
did.
says verifying collateral.
I just added the words, verifying tangible assets as a primary or principal obligation from the guarantor as appropriate security from default for the incentive being provided.
May include. And then the rest of the paragraph stays the same.
Well, that is the paragraph.
Well, the other,
I took out the city. The city will have, to. I mean, the EDC is going to have to decide how you're going to really handle this.
the end of the sentence, though, is the part that says, as determined by the city to be appropriate security for the incentive being provided. So that is the legal language.
If you want to add that to the rest of my sentence, I think that's fine.
So what you're asking is after the words, if you guys have the agreement in front of you, that very last paragraph where the attorney made an amendment, what Ken is proposing is after the word corporate guarantee or individual guarantee, adding verifying collateral as a primary or principal obligation from the guarantor as appropriate security from default for the incentive being provided. And that sentence starts with, I or we acknowledge this performance agreement may include any deed of trust, corporate guarantee, or individual guarantee.
Right.
He's asking that we add verifying collateral as a primary or principal obligation from the guarantor as appropriate security from default for the incentive being provided.
Right. It's not taken away from it
As
all.
determined by the
It's
city.
the definition.
So,
It's the definition.
But I thought we didn't want to deal with the collateral.
Well, it still says may, so,
Well, I mean,
it doesn't change a thing.
all it's saying is verifying collateral of whatever kind it is.
Okay, we have a motion.
You is always going to be under a performance
We
agreement.
have
We're
a
not.
motion.
We have a motion on the floor
That,
by Councilman Foster. Do I have a second?
Jacobs, second.
I have a second. Vote for my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes?
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
Boss, yes.
Amen.
Motion passes.
Ridiculous.
All right.
Y'all know how to change that at the polls.
9B, consider and take action to accept the resignation of Paul McCullough from the Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. Our city manager, Dr. Smith, will speak to this.
Mr. McCullough missed 3 meetings. Right before his 3rd meeting, he submitted the resignation that was attached in your packet, resigning from the Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. We should have accepted this at our November meeting. I apologize. EDC, it came in right as we published the EDC agenda, so we had to get it on the EDC agenda. We typically would not accept a resignation in this format, but because that is a board of directors for a corporation, legally we need to do that. We have already posted the position and are accepting applications if anyone is interested in applying. I gotta
Move
get
that we
my-
take action to accept the
Get in there.
resignation of Paul McCullough from the Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Evans, second.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Vote for my left, please.
Burns, yes.
Evans, yes?
Jacobs, yes.
Person, yes.
Boss, yes, and I would like to publicly thank Paul for his service while he was on this EDC board.
Me as well.
Meeting adjourned.